The first thing I want to cover is the fact that this is a true sign to the end of fiat currency, whether it happens, let's say, this decade or maybe even a few decades from now. Heck, even into the next market cycle. I don't think we're going to see the collapse of fiat just yet, considering right now the United States government and their hegemony with the US dollar is still very much a major portion of the global economy. Major countries and other countries and participants still want to earn in the US dollar. It still holds value better than a basket of other currencies worldwide, save a few. That said, this is a sign. The fact that the Department of Government Efficiency has been shut down and quote unquote no longer exists. And this was according to a Trump administration official, which is quite interesting because then basically the next day, Doge itself on their X account posted that this is fake news and that Trump was given a mandate by the American people to modernize the federal government and reduce waste, fraud, and abuse, which is totally fine and fair. And if they did find last week another $335 million, bravo to them. But at the end of the day, when you are truly adding an extra $6.5 billion per day over the last 326 days in a row, this is not even just a drop in the bucket. It's really laughable and ultimately won't make a difference. And that is the sad reality, is that our government is just too bloated and not even a mind like Elon Musk with all of his money and influence can stop it. The national debt increased from $36.2 trillion to $38.3 since January, which is absolutely insane and arguably going parabolic. So even with the tariffs, we have to see what this is going to do to the United States dollar and how it's going to affect inflation, which is going to cause the Fed to have to respond, right? At the end of the day, if inflation continues to increase over the next couple of months, then the Fed is going to have to respond by keeping interest rates higher. But as they continue to keep interest rates higher, it's likely going to cause more fear and panic into an already weakening and shaky market, causing the market to dump or collapse even further. And they're going to have to then respond because unemployment numbers are going to continue to rise by lowering interest rates. In other words, everything in the current situation is truly a lose-lose-lose situation. Our Federal Reserve under Jerome Powell has done too little too late. Our current government is still spending trillions and trillions of dollars adding to the deficit. And I don't even think at this point tariffs are enough to save it. So at some point in time, again, as I stated in the intro of this thing, the chickens are going to come home to roost. And that's going to look like higher inflation and prices. It's going to look like a collapse in the middle class, which we've already seen. It's going to cause more disparity, and arguably it's going to create a disparity so great that it could potentially even lead to a future civil war. As Plutarch said it best, an imbalance between rich and poor is the oldest and most fatal ailment of all republics. And we have to remember the United States is a democratic republic. In other words, if I've ever been more confident in a flight of capital to other currencies and arguably away from any fiat currencies, even if we have up-and-coming nations, at the end of the day, the Doge legacy is not one that it succeeded, but it destroyed faith in real cost-conscious government, faith in careers of committed government employees, faith of scientific research and biomedical breakthroughs that come through it, and faith for countless of lives of the world's poorest. And this isn't me trying to be socialist or negative. At the end of the day, this is just the reality of fiat currencies, which is why I'm so confident that crypto is not only here to stay, but more money over time will flow into crypto, even with a bit of volatility or downside into the next year. And so maybe that's why one of the most systemically important banks in the world, and one of the largest, which has direct ties to the United States government and the Fed, recently decided to shut down Jack Mallers, who is a major proponent of Bitcoin and crypto, and basically sent him a letter that he decided to frame stating, "We have decided to close your accounts." It almost feels like it's a war on crypto again. And this is something that Eleanor Tourette recently posted by retweeting Senator Cynthia Lummis talking about Operation Choke Point 2.0, which regrettably lives on. Policies like JP Morgan's undermine confidence in traditional banks, and will likely send digital asset industries overseas. Now, we thought there was already an end to Operation Choke Point 2.0, essentially where the Fed or actors inside of government were reaching out to banks, telling them that they had to debank anyone who was involved with crypto, whether it was through on-ramps or off-ramps, but that doesn't seem to be the case because they literally gave Jack Mallers no reason for closing his accounts. Now, this is where things are getting a bit sticky because JP Morgan did decide to continue banking Epstein after the fact, after they knew everything that he was doing and involved with, which has been called out. But when they abruptly closed the personal bank accounts of Strike CEO Jack Mallers and didn't provide a clear explanation, everyone went and erupted online. Basically, he stated online last month that JP Morgan Chase threw him out of the bank, which was bizarre. His dad has been a private client there for 30 years, and he then continued to write his only response from them was that they weren't allowed to tell him. Think about the transparency of that, and then think about the blockchain and crypto, which cannot be anything but transparent, which is why we like crypto so much, because there is a layer of transparency where you can't just have some regulated entity who has private interest to go throw you out and say, we don't have to tell you anything. And so essentially this has created a new war with crypto, Bitcoin, anyone who loves the space, to shut down accounts with JP Morgan, and already we're seeing it all over online. At this point in time, there truly is a major divide between those who think crypto is the future and those who are totally fine being robbed of their wealth living under the old system. And at the end of the day, all of these entities seem to be more and more corrupt. It's just we find out about it later, as even Ron Wyden posted that their staff is releasing a new report showing that JP Morgan Chase executives all the way to the top enabled Epstein's sex trafficking operation, which is absolutely insane, but it does not shock me anymore. And so as I see things now, at the end of the day, whether or not all of this information is true or whether there's a silver lining, nobody, and I mean nobody, actually trusts government anymore. They might trust an actor or two. You might like Trump, you might not like him, but nobody trusts government anymore, and nobody believes that they can truly be efficient, which leads me to believe and adopt the theory that the only efficiency at this point in time, the only religion we need to have when it comes to currency is going to be that of blockchain, which is truly transparent and incorruptible as long as you have a decentralized network. And so that leads me to believe that there will continue to be a flight of capital into digital assets over the long run, even if we have officially entered a bear market. And now I'm about 95% sure we have, which means we do need to reclaim the 40-week moving average. And the reality is this is the very first time since the prior breakdown for a bear market that we've been below this moving average, and it's flatlined. As you can see, we're flat over here on this line versus having a nice steady uptrend where we did break down one time right here. Yes, we had a wick here, but we broke down one time here only to see a bear trap and the market rally and recover right back above the line. Similar thing happened right here in March of 2025. Would have provided a good dip buying opportunity. But now that we are far later stage and we spent more than 90 days above the range into a nasty breakdown where Bitcoin hit about $80,000, this leads me to believe that this is now going to act as a major resistance. So if we're to rally and recover, looking at that daily time frame, I do believe we are in for some sort of a relief rally. At the end of the day, I don't see Bitcoin breaking out above 100K or even 103K into this relief rally. And if we do, then that would be a great time to start entering the market into some strength. But this leads me to believe that the bull market is over for the entire year, which will carry over into the rest of the crypto market. As you can see, all charts look very similar. Some look a little weaker, some look a little stronger. But in a general sense, if Bitcoin is trading heavily down, so will the majors. And XRP has done the exact same thing, putting in a series of lower lows and lower highs. The most recent low came down to $1.83, currently sitting at 225. Very much possible we come back up to the 240 range, maybe maybe even 250 on some serious strength, but into these ranges right here, you're going to experience some level of resistance, especially if Bitcoin continues to break down for further lows. And as you can see here, even on the 40-week moving average, again, similar story, right? Supported right here in June before rallying for its all-time high. Since then, breaking down, seeing this thing roll over. The fact that if you look at Bitcoin and that daily time frame, heck, even the weekly time frame on the RSI,